All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for the fifth session of our Echo-like training series, Supporting the Whole Child, Connecting Brain Health Systems in Practice. My name is Haley Bell. I'm the training program manager with Telehealth Rocks, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's session. Next slide, please. So before we jump in, I just want to take a quick moment just to remind us what the series is. So it is an ongoing twice monthly learning series. So we've got this one on the second Wednesday, and then we also meet on the last Thursday of the month. That session is at noon. And the series is grounded in the whole school, whole community, whole child framework, really allowing us to think about how systems can connect and wrap around children. We also want to make sure that the sessions are interactive for you. So each session has a case-based approach, really making sure that you guys are able to learn from each other and apply the information that you learned in the beginning of the session. We also are highlighting multiple disciplines and perspectives. So you'll see today that Bethany and Casey are two speakers. They each bring their own perspective, and that's carried throughout the remainder of the series as well. And then for everything that we talked through today, it really is focused on real world practice and collaboration. So really making sure that you guys can take back what you learned into your day-to-day work or life. Next slide, please. I'm really excited to introduce our speakers today. So first we have Bethany Frazier. Bethany is the founder and owner of the Kansas City Dietitian Collective, a multidisciplinary nutrition counseling practice serving all ages throughout Kansas and Missouri. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Dietetics from the University of Central Missouri and her Master of Science in Food and Nutrition from Bowling Green State University. Bethany's passion is for personalized nutrition, helping her clients feel better than they ever believed was possible. She partners with her clients and their families to address nutrition concerns while considering the broader influences of environment, routines, and relationships. We're also joined today by Casey Warden. Casey Warden is a passionate advocate for health, wellness, and nutrition, driven by personal experiences with chronic disease, neurological disorders, and autoimmune conditions within her own family members. After witnessing the profound impact of poor nutrition on quality of life, she knew something had to change. So this led Casey to pursue a degree in nutritional sciences at Oklahoma State University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Human Sciences in 2020. Casey now leads transformative efforts in school nutrition, focusing on farm-to-school initiatives, craft cooking, and local food sourcing. Her mission is to help children and families access nourishing meals that support long-term health and prevent disease, because she knows how powerful food can be. So we're super excited to have Casey and Bethany join us for today's session. Next slide, please. So for today's session, we're really going to be focused on youth nutrition, kind of the fundamentals of that, building healthy eating habits and school-based nutrition and farm-to-school programs. And like I mentioned earlier, the series is based in the WISC model. So for today's session, we really are focusing on the nutritional environment and nutrition environment and services, as well as health education components of the WISC model. Next slide, please. So before I hand it over to the presenters, I do just want to quickly review our learning objectives for today. So by the end of the session, you should be able to identify practical approaches for supporting healthy eating habits in children and youth. You'll also be able to identify practical strategies for encouraging healthy eating habits and helping children become more adventurous eaters, as well as explain how schools and child nutrition services can improve access to nutritious foods and nutrition education through innovative programs and community partnerships. And finally, you'll walk away being able to recognize how nutrition, education, and food systems can all work together to support a whole child approach to student wellness. So super excited that you guys are here for the session today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bethany to get us started.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to be with you guys. If you see a dietitian in the wild, you don't normally think of like a fun person. Usually, I'm not the one that people want to invite to parties. They're like, oh, she's a dietitian. I don't want to invite her. So we're going to start with some fun things because I think nutrition is fun, and not just because I'm passionate about it, but because I do think that there's a way to make it fun for ourselves and for our kids, that food should taste good. So I'm going to start with a little question, and I want you guys to write in the chat, what is the number one veggie eaten by kids? So what do you think is the number one veggie eaten by kids? Write in the chat what you think your response is. I see corn, tomato, carrots, carrots. Potatoes. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what it is. Go on to the next one. Okay, so the number one is actually potatoes. And this is mostly in French fries. And then the second is tomatoes, which is mostly tomato sauce. So that's like pizza and pasta. So we have a lot of children, as we can see, are eating maybe not a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. 27% of kids don't eat a single veggie in a day, and that's even accounting for potatoes and tomatoes. So pizza and French fries. By the age of 2, most children have established their taste preferences. That's going to establish them for a lifetime. But what we know too is by the age of 4 to 5, that most kids have established those eating habits. So you think about when a kid transitions to being in a school environment, they have a little bit more, they have more pressure to eat maybe in a certain time frame or at a certain time, or they see what their friends are eating. So they lack some of that internal response to eating in a certain way, and they start to eat based off of what everyone else is doing around them. So this is still a really good opportunity for us to come in and say, okay, well, what is actually nutrition and how do we help them have the most nutrient dense and varied diet as we're supporting them through their lifetime. So I think the number one question that I always get asked is what is healthy? And the hard part about this for most people is that everyone has a different definition. So we're going to try and come up with a definition today that's really simple and applicable to every person, whether you're looking at for yourself, for people that you work with, for your own family. We want it to be something that's really practical that you can remember. And the two things that we're going to look for at every eating opportunity, and this is something that I talk to probably all of my clients about, is what is your protein? What is your plant? We make it a little more complex for adults, but really those two key questions that you're going to ask at every opportunity is really going to define what a healthy meal can look like. If you look at this picture, this is a picture real life of my family. So this is obviously age appropriate, but you can see for myself, I have a salad, a Cobb salad that is has a lot of different things and it's all mixed together. And then you can see on the left is a picture of my kids' plate. It has most of the same elements. This one actually that day didn't end up with any lettuce on their plate, but they have fruit, they have avocado, they have an egg, and it's appropriate for her age at that time. So, one thing to keep in mind as you're looking at introducing kids is that they often are coming across new experiences all day long. So, when they're at school, when they're just living their lives, they experience new things all the time. And then they are introduced to new food, and that's really overwhelming to them. And this can even be up into high school age or older kids too. Sometimes for adults, I see some adults that that's too much for them is to introduce new foods because they just have so many other things on their plate, literally and figuratively. So when we're talking about introducing foods, we want it to be in a really non overwhelming way, just because there's a lot of new things in life for kids. One of my clients actually suggested this idea, and it's something that I've taken into my own family, and you could see it illustrated in this Cobb salad. Is they call it the magic bowl night. And so magic bowl, really what it does, it's sometimes annoying for the parent, but you can dumb it down to whatever your preference is you put everything that you're going to eat into individual bowls, and then they can serve themselves. That gives them some of that autonomy back, which is what kids want. You can still set some parameters on, like you have to pick a fruit or a vegetable. And that's how this Cobb salad, their plate actually was created, is that I let them select which ones that they wanted to have, and they could have as much as they wanted or as little, but it allows them some of that control. I'm still giving them the opportunity to eat lots of fruits and vegetables and to be exposed to it, but sometimes they don't want that food, and that's okay. Just like us, sometimes I don't want to eat a salad. Sometimes I want to eat pasta. And so we want them to be able to make those choices and help them navigate that throughout a lifetime. When we're presenting new foods to kids too, we want to make sure that there's always a safe food. So if there's something that we know they always will eat, we want to make sure that they have that in addition to some of the new foods. So it's not always just new foods. And that continued exposure to new foods. Casey's going to talk about this a little bit more too, but as we're exposing them to new foods, they might have a lot of other things going on in their minds. And if you think about like a blueberry sometimes is really tart, sometimes it's really sweet, sometimes it's really hard, sometimes it's really mushy, versus a Cheez-It. It always tastes the same. It's always very crunchy and it has that cheesy texture and taste. And so that's where often kids will go back towards those safe foods. And so offering those alongside something that maybe has a varied texture allows them to be able to select those healthy foods in the long run. So let's talk a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes when kids are making choices for having healthy or what adults would consider healthy or not healthy options. So as adults, we're eating our fruits and vegetables, our whole foods, um, for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's because it's just what's convenient. Often it's because you know that they're good for you. That's not always because you like them, or that you like them more than other things. It's just because maybe they make you feel good. You've had experiences that tell you those are things that you should be eating. Versus kids, they eat because it tastes good. They don't care if it's good for them. They just eat because it tastes good. And so if you think about some of the nutrition education that we've done, and this works for some kids, but it's like, oh, eat a bunch of carrots, and this will help you be able to see through walls because it helps your eyes. And then the kid says, I ate my carrots. I can't see through any wall. And so I don't want to eat any more carrots because that's not true. And so if we can encourage them beyond just this is good for you, or that it gives you a superpower to say like this helps us feel good. And it's just part of that, those pieces. But you can see that that motivation changes between an adult and a kid. Same is true for adults. We have the opportunity to limit foods or not limit foods. So if we want to eat a bunch of ice cream for dinner, we can. If we want to limit foods for whatever reason, I don't really prefer this food, or say I don't want to eat a brownie now, but I know I can always have it later because I can go to the store. I can do any of those things to help me get whatever food I want later. Kids don't often have that control over when they might have that food again. And so that weighs into their decision on whether they're going to eat something or not eat something. Adults also have that self-awareness that helps them to navigate social situations versus kids lack that self-awareness in social situations. And that's why they don't care if they're throwing a tantrum at the restaurant. If you say they have to try their peas, they don't care because they lack that social awareness. And it's again that overwhelm, especially during the school year or during a long summer day too. They lack that awareness and they're tired. And so dinner time often is a struggle for a lot of families because they are trying to establish good boundaries over what they should and shouldn't eat, but they don't care about that. So they don't have that social awareness to say this is too hard, and so I'm just gonna act out. So let's talk back to what we talked as our definition of healthy eating, that protein and that plant. Protein is having a moment, right? I just was at the grocery store this week and there's the new protein Doritos. You can get protein Pop-Tarts. You can add protein powder to literally everything you've ever imagined. And that gets confusing for parents. That gets confusing for kids. Oh, protein. I should just be focusing on protein, and that's the only thing I need to worry about. Yes, we need to make sure that we're having enough protein. And for kids, that is a common concern, that making sure that they're getting adequate protein. But that's still going to be that language I'm going to use. It's just that adequate protein. And this chart I think is helpful. If you're looking at a kid that is age 1 through 3, so a toddler, they only need 4 grams of protein per meal. So that's not a lot. They don't need a scoop of protein powder. They don't even need a full serving of cottage cheese. Ages 4 through 8, so kind of school age, early school age children need about 6 grams of protein per meal. So that's only going to be around 20 grams of protein per day. And that's the equivalent of what an adult is going to need per meal. So it just helps you start to gauge, okay, they still don't need a scoop of protein powder at every meal. And then the ages 9 through 13, so we're getting to those older elementary and middle school age children. They need about 11 grams of protein per meal. So these common foods you might see like chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets is a common food, at least in our house. And so that's 3 grams of protein per chicken nugget, roughly. So that could be adequate for a toddler to only have one. that could be adequate for a early school age to only have two. And so trying to look for opportunities, and it can be if you have a child that doesn't like to eat meat or maybe doesn't eat dairy. There's lots of other ways to get in protein that don't have to be a protein powder. Some common things like I love to look at green peas. I know that's not everyone's favorite vegetable, but it's a good source of protein and fiber. So if you can get your kids to eat it, a half a cup has 4 grams and it is really cheap. And so that's a really good way to add some variety. And if you get it from a vegetable, so you're getting multiple things than just having something else. But there's lots of options to include more protein on a regular basis, but really it doesn't need to be a lot. So we're looking at between 4 and 10 grams per meal, depending on the age of the kids. So the second part of our definition is really looking at what our plants are. So this again is helpful too. I think we carry that weight as family members, as parents, as providers. Oh, they should be eating more fruits and vegetables, and it's absolutely true. We should be eating more fruits and vegetables. But there's times where we're really trying to push maybe too much on them, and it's overwhelming. So what is a serving size for a fruit or vegetable for kids? Toddlers are only 3 tablespoons. So that's not a lot when you're thinking about applesauce or you're thinking about even strawberries or any of those. And one of my children loves strawberries, and he probably would turn into a strawberry if I let him. So he was not eating 3 tablespoons as a toddler. He will definitely eat over a half a cup of strawberries if I let him now. But those pieces that you're trying to still come up with variety on how you fit into these. So a half a cup serving can be anything that you can, so any of the chopped up berries, it could be veggies, so carrots, anything that falls in that category that's finger foods are really easy for kids to get behind and to enjoy. The cup serving is usually a one whole. So if you're talking about a whole orange, a whole pear, a whole apple, that's going to be what's included as a cup. So if a school age kid eats half an apple and it's a normal size, it doesn't need to be the jumbo, just the normal size apple, then that's going to be included as a full serving for that 5 to 8 age range. Um, and then the bigger ones are like cuties. Cuties are about a half a cup. Those little mini mandarins, those are really popular with kids too. Anything that they can dip is really makes it much easier for kids to be and still that exposure when you're cooking, set out something that is they can just munch on because they're starting to get hungry or after school, having things that they're ready to start eating. One resource that I think is really helpful in identifying if you are already thinking, okay, I feel like I mentioned my son who only eats or he loves strawberries and will just hunt them down and eat them, pick them out of anything because he loves strawberries so much. So, when you're evaluating what healthy diet looks like for kids and adults, one of the acronyms that I use is called BROG. It's just a made-up word. If you Google it, you're not going to find anything probably other than anything that's associated with me because I use it a lot. But the 4 letters stand for blue, purple, red, orange, and green. So those are all the different phytonutrients that we get from our fruits and vegetables lumped into categories. So if you're trying to expand variety in kids, that can be a helpful tool is to look for making sure you're getting a good source from the blue purple category. So that could be blueberries or blackberries. Red would be things like tomatoes, or strawberries. Orange, of course, oranges or carrots or orange bell peppers. And then green is going to be all your leafy greens. It's going to be your broccoli, anything along those lines. So that can be a helpful thing too as you're trying to make sure you're working on variety. Okay, so we're gonna practice just a little bit. I'm gonna let you all practice as far as how can we put things into each category, and we'll put it in the chat if you and I'll give you a couple options or opportunities. What would be some things that we could put in the protein category for tacos, and the plant category? For tacos, if we were, again, our definition is a protein and a plant at every meal. If we're having tacos on the menu tonight, what are some things that you would put in the protein category or in the plant category? Beans. Oh, I'm glad you said that. Okay, so beans, which one would they fall into? It's not really a trick question. Maybe it is. I actually would put beans in both categories because beans are a good protein source. They also are a plant, and that's where I stretch my definition sometimes. I'm still looking for opportunity to get more nutrients, and if I have a picky eater or someone that needs a little bit more encouraging, I will often include beans. Chickpeas, yeah, include beans as that plant, especially in something like tacos, or if you're thinking about anything with ground meat, you can always mix the beans in it, and it stretches your meat a little bit further, gives you some more fiber. You could mix in a grain, so like a farro would be included, or like a quinoa, you could include in as your protein or your plant. What about burgers? So burgers feels like an obvious one, but what would you pair it with plant-wise? Lettuce. Yep. Lettuce, tomatoes. You could always do a salad too. Sweet potatoes. Yep. So like sweet potatoes, you can make your own sweet potatoes or sweet potato fries. Onion. All these would be ones. So making your own, and we talked about at the beginning, offering them as options to put on top of their burger or not put on top of it. That can be helpful. What about spaghetti or pasta? What is your protein and what is your plant? With kids, I hear a lot. The favorite meal is my kid only eats buttered noodles. How do I get them a protein and a plant, or offer them a protein and a plant within a meal that is spaghetti or pasta? Cheese. Yep. So cheese would fall in that protein. You get a little bit of protein from cheese. What about a plant? Mashed, yeah. So you can make your tomato sauce into you can make your tomato sauce into like more of a veggie garden sauce. So you can add anything mashed carrots or lentils. Those are really great options. The protein noodles is another good one too. I use that one sometimes. My kids like it. If you feel like kids are iffy on that, I'll often recommend like a 50-50. I do think the brand matters too. I really like the Banza brand, but I've bought the off-brand before and it was gross. So if one is not good, then make sure you cook it al dente. Otherwise, they're going to notice. My kids don't notice anymore. I do the 50-50 on the noodles. So that's a really good way to get in a little bit more protein. Remember, they don't need a bunch, but if you're assuming that you're going to eat the same thing, you probably need a little bit more. I also think for plants, remember that it doesn't actually have to make sense. Back to our kind of our magic bowl analogy, it doesn't have to make sense. If they like it and they really like strawberries, strawberries go with everything. Or if they, whatever, random food. I've seen kids like really random fruits and vegetables, and they're like, I mean, I guess you can serve them a bowl of lentils or dragon fruit or whatever it is that they really love in addition to their meal. And that just gives them an opportunity to have those foods that they like, and that can really serve towards their nutrition. Okay, so I gave some ideas that you can add in. All right, so we're gonna wrap up in the last couple of minutes talking about how do we help build adventurous eaters, because I do think that it's not just that definition of protein and plant, although I think that's a really helpful tool. It's really not just what you're eating, but how you're eating. If you're trying to grow adventurous eaters, we want to make sure that it's encouraging the total lifestyle. So we're looking for a pressure-free environment. And that is where it's not, oh, you have to finish your plate, or else. It can still be that encouragement. And again, you get to decide boundaries that are appropriate for your family, but we want to make sure that they don't feel pressured at the table. We often see that in adults, that I see it on the other side where they were told, oh, my entire life I couldn't leave the table unless I ate. Or the opposite, I grew up with seven siblings, and so if I didn't eat quickly, then I didn't get any food. And so making sure the best that you can, that you keep it a low pressure environment, that it's not that they have to eat a certain amount or that they have to, you can still say we have to try everything, but that they have to go against that rapid pace like we talked about earlier. There's often a lot of pressure that they're bringing to the table, especially at dinner time. We want it to be fun, and that they enjoy food, to have that long, good relationship with food. So that can be to look for the environment and how you present foods. So food offered in small portions, This is really also not fun, especially when you're trying to introduce new foods. My husband is the one that like scoops up the food and he's like, I don't want to go back to the pan, so I'm just going to give them the maximum serving. I'm like, okay, but that's overwhelming. So let's make sure that we have small portions. So that is true that even, and this can be true for anyone, adults, it can be true for kids that we want to make sure we're offering them appropriate portions to try. Don't compare them to other children or to their siblings. Eating shouldn't have a reward. I know this is a common thing. So if you eat your dinner, then you get a dessert. There's can be other things that you can do to make sure that, we have dessert sometimes in our house, but not always. It's just part of our routine. That way they don't think they have to earn it or that they feel forced to eat something. Make sure that the environment is fun. And so having music or having maybe questions that you ask at dinner. I know that's extra work for parents, but that can help make sure that that eating environment is fun. And then set the expectations. If your expectations are that they have to try everything, make sure that they know that they have to try everything. And that can be true for adults too. So making sure that you are holding yourself accountable to eating that protein in that plant too, so that you're modeling to them how that they can be a future adventurous eater. Okay. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Casey.
Good morning, and I just want to thank you for having me here. And Brittany, that was terrific information because it's a lot of it is what we try to model with our student food programs too at school. So I'm just gonna kind of let you know what we're doing at Coffeeville. So starting out, we're serving around about approximately 1,700 students, and that is from birth all the way to 12th grade. We run several programs to the national food program. So USDA has lots of regulations and rules that we have to follow too. And fortunately, those do pertain to what Brittany was talking about the amounts of protein and your plant foods, the different colors. We've got to engage all those, but more importantly, those are very strict with what we do, and the training that my staff has to go through is pretty incredible because we've got to meet those daily and weekly amounts of, say, like red, green, orange, the leafy greens, the legumes, the protein. Um, so to do that, because we are usually under tight budgets, the Farm to School initiative was the best way to go about that. So the school had a greenhouse that wasn't really being fully utilized, and I asked permission to use that. And while we want to use it as more of a production greenhouse, the idea still was to use it as a classroom space too. So not just where students can come and learn about what they're growing, but also give teachers and other staff time, place to bring their students if they want like a non-conventional type, classroom. So we also have a 40-foot shipping container that was purchased through a grant, well, actually two grants. And we started that December of 2024, and it's operated by my department, Child Nutrition. And we have done since 2024 in December, we've harvested around about close to 2,000 pounds of leafy greens, and we do grow some herbs like basil. We've grown some cilantro in there, but mostly a lot of different types of leafy lettuce. There's been some kale, bok choy, things that we can add directly to our salad bars for our kids. So we do scratch cooking. We've had to kind of mix it with speed scratch just because of labor. I've got a pretty outstanding staff, so they work real hard to make this happen. We purchased from some Kansas producers. We had gotten some sub grants through KSDE, which started us off with the local foods. And I've able to build some really nice community connections with local producers, and Rocky Top meats was one of them. And right now we're purchasing through let's see, it's Larry and Crystal Whitwer. They're in Coffeeville, but we are getting fresh local beef and pork from them right now, so we're able to serve that to our students as well. Um, so I do want to mention that while we're under strict guidelines before the students were being served. So why then they would just come through the lines and get exactly what was put out there. Now we do an offer versus serve. So we still meet those guidelines that we have to do through the USDA, but the kids get a choice. And to be real honest with you, when we first started off with the scratch cooking, that did not go as well as what most people will think because kids are it's a fast pace. We know this. And with our community, you're getting more of fast food, ramen noodles, chicken nuggets, those type of things. But here, what I've still done is take some of those favorite foods, like the chicken nuggets or the ramen. We've incorporated them into our menus, and they get a choice. So they also have a second choice for entrees, but they have a full salad bar to choose their vegetables and any other sides. We have actually have kids that love the fresh beets and the pickled okra. It's really surprising what some of the kids love, and using that modeling through, even if we don't like it as adults, uh, modeling the happy face. And I try to teach the students or the teachers this at the early learning center too, is even if you don't like that food, just look like you do. Move it around your plate, because the kids, especially the littles, they struggle with some of the foods that we do have on their plates. We do family style dining at the early learning center, so the kids are at least exposed to those foods. It's getting better. It's not, it's taken a little bit of time, but we're getting there. Next slide. So the challenges, I did mention some of those. So the thing is that schools are often the most consistent source of nutritious meals for many children. Budgets and opportunities, those affect school food service, and it's also it affects the alignment and education of food service. The thing is that most teachers, staff, administration, even community, they don't really see how we're called lunch ladies are connected to education. Most they believe that we're just there to feed children. And yes, we're there to feed children, but there is a method to the madness. Besides, USDA rules and regulations, we've got state, to follow too. But the important part of this is that students, they can't learn effectively when their basic nutrition needs are not met. So we already know that many children have limited access to fresh produce outside of school, and this is where our national programs come into play. So putting this in a unique perspective, schools are positioned to improve nutrition access. And the nutrition impacts that we have is, academic performance. We can impact attendance. We can impact physical health and mental well-being. If you don't, have nutritious, nutrient-dense foods, you're competing with behaviors in the classroom, headaches, achy bellies because they're hungry. And we did go through that because you put all this fresh food in front of kids, and the exposure to it at first, it's overwhelming, and a lot of them they don't get that. So um, now they had a choice. They're looking at it, they're seeing it, they're seeing their friends, make those choices. So um, even though we do have that unique position, it is, I always mention too that the federal level that involves the reimbursements of what schools can serve, um, that is a big impact too, because it's expensive to do this. And one of the biggest barriers is that the federal reimbursement rates for school food has not increased at all in decades. So that's what we're working on too, but that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? We do this by continually negotiating with our vendors in procurement, working with the community. I'm constantly making community connections, um, polishing the procurement. It's become a very big important in keeping our budget sound so that we can still continue to serve better food, quality food, and then constantly involving in the kitchens. And that's training my staff how to prepare this food, how to present the food, and then of course continuously and seeking out grants and community support. Um, so we also utilize the resources through Child Nutrition and Wellness at KSDE. They've got Farm Fresh Fridays they've developed. They've got Harvest of the Month developed, and these are all great for nutrition education in the classroom too. So I did mention the produce that we grow, but that salad that you see right there is things that we have grown in that hydroponic garden. It's lettuce, and there was some um, well, we had some different colored lettuces. The bok choy was mixed in there, and we had some other ones. Some of the mustard greens we tried, some of the red we try to hide with stuff, but we're also looking at. I'm trying to teach them how to use that in some of the stir fries too. So, but the kids they're trying already recognizing like some of these have an earthy flavor, some they might have like a slightly bitter flavor, but they're noticing the flavors in the foods that they're growing. Um, I guess we can go to the next slide. Sorry. So what when we look at what they're learning outside the classroom, I've got I've got a manager and a cook that help me primarily in the greenhouse and in the hydroponic farm. And what's I guess the most interesting and rewarding is the conversations that we get to have with these kids. They don't normally really think about, I don't want to do gardening. There's some of them, they've said that they're not interested. But when we've got them, especially into the hydroponics farm, and the opportunities for STEM. I mean, you're not just growing plants in there. It's, managing pH of the water, electroconductivity. There's so much science, so much. I mean, there's math, but it's not math like what you're looking at in the textbook. And they get interested. And we've had them where they've come to us and asked us if they could come back and work in there. But they're learning. Um, they're seeding plants, they're transplanting the plants, they're harvesting their food, they're learning about food systems and also in service learning opportunities. And like I said, the plethora of STEM opportunities alone with this Farm to School initiative is just immense. So next slide, please. And then bouncing back to exposure. One of the most, effective strategies for the increasing symptoms of the healthy foods is just repeated exposure. And the research shows that you've got to expose them multiple times before, a lot of times before they're even willing to try it. I have kids coming through the lines and I've watched them 10 times look at the food, and they've even looked at me like, I don't know, or make a face. And then one day, just like this one here, you see she's got cucumbers on there. She was one of them that specifically, she's really funny. A lot of the kids, they developed such great relationships with all of our staff. And she even said, I'm going to try these today. So she did, and she gets them quite repeatedly. She may not take anything else, but she loves the cucumbers. So what we found is that students are often more willing to try the foods if they know where it comes from. So exposing them not just to the new foods, but how we're growing this. I do have a few hydroponic towers that are at the elementary right now. We have struggled getting them to work properly, but in the meantime, we have a few times. The high school students are mostly the ones that are going into the hydroponic unit or the hydroponic unit, the farm. that are working in there, but I see this year that we're going to be able to get the elementary students in there too, and I'm pretty excited about that. So knowing that food preferences begin developing early in life and that can persist into adulthood. So we expose the increased exposure to a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables during childhood. Um, Schools just have the opportunity to influence dietary patterns that can support long-term health outcomes. Very important. See, okay, right. Next slide. So when we're talking about supporting the whole child, and I love this, it just requires creating systems that connect, nutrition, education, um, nutrition and health, and community. And our greenhouse and hydroponic farm have shown that school nutrition programs can be powerful drivers of student wellness, both inside and out of the classroom. Okay, all right. I guess we can go to the next slide there. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Like I said at the beginning of today's session, we really want you guys to have a chance to kind of apply what you've learned, and then also just to share your experiences and really create an opportunity for us to learn from one another. So Bethany is gonna present a case to us, and then we have some discussion questions that Casey will guide us through. And when we get to those discussion questions, feel free to respond in the chat. You can also come off of mute if you'd like to respond that way as well.
Okay, so we have Marcus. He is age 9, lives in a rural community, and relies on school breakfast and lunch during the academic year. During the summer months, his caregivers notice a decrease in the variety of foods he is willing to eat. Marcus spends his days with his grandparents, who allow him to eat whenever he feels hungry and keep the kitchen stocked with many of his favorite snack foods. As a result, he tends to graze throughout the day, eating very little at family dinners and frequently snacks again in the evening. Concerned about his limited food variety and eating patterns, his caregivers scheduled an evaluation with his pediatrician. After an assessment, the pediatrician determined that Marcus's eating behaviors were consistent with picky eating. They are unsure how to help him move forward.
Okay, for discussion question 1, what factors may be contributing to Marcus's limited food variety, and which individuals or systems could help address those factors? So what stands out to you about Marcus's situation?
I'm gonna drop the case in the chat as well, just so you guys can reflect back through that as you think about your answers. Looks like we had food grazing when at the grandparents. Also, Crystal pointed out that the adults are the one purchasing the snacks. Angie says Marcus is being allowed to eat all day, kind of what he wants when he wants. I think that was another one that stood out to me as well. Again, access to snacks all day, not having a schedule, and access to healthy options. And Allison had said kind of looking at like how we can help address the factors, maybe getting all of the caregivers on the same page about Marcus's meals. Lori says Marcus is eating at the school during the school year 2 times per day during the school week. So definitely an opportunity to address some of the factors that we're seeing in the case here as well.
Sometimes what I see in kind of tying some of these together, sometimes what I see is that the grandparents feel overwhelmed, like a little under-equipped to manage all the things. If they were, to live their normal lives during the school year, maybe they pick him up but they're not as involved. And then now they're managing the social activities of an 8-year-old all day, and they might just be a little tired. And so having, I think, even just good suggestions around structure or around snacks can be really helpful for bringing everyone together. Someone mentioned the caregivers all being on the same page, I think is a really helpful goal for them.
Looks like Ashley shared in the chat that she actually has a 9-year-old named Marcus who also loves to snack. So good coincidence there. She said one of the biggest things that they do during the summer is having portion control on snacks between meals. So maybe serving one serving of goldfish in a baggie or something, and then more of a focus around mealtime. So thanks, Ashley. I really appreciate that recommendation as well. I thought Angie made a good point as well. She said the family may also have a limited budget, and often junk food could may be cheaper than finding some healthier options. I don't know, Bethany, if that's something you deal with maybe with your clients that, maybe struggle for finding more affordable options for, more nutritious foods.
Hmm. Well, and some of it too is if the parents or grandparents or whoever that are involved are not used to eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables because they are potentially less expensive than the packaged foods, especially the individual package, but it feels more expensive because of that overwhelm. And so even thinking about like, okay, well, and because they think it's going to get thrown away. So even more hardy ones too, like apples or carrots that are more likely to not get pitched because they end up going moldy. I think sometimes that's one of the things that we talk about, or even packaged healthier snacks like raisins, even like chocolate covered raisins, like those are going to last a lot longer and that's still going to be a little bit, we're moving in the right direction towards that plant category. But yeah, definitely finances can be a big thing that's it. You can't just correct the conversation when there's access issues and all of that, but it still is, okay, well, which ones could we maybe sneak in that would be a little bit moving him in the right direction?
Right. I think Lori pointed out as well too, like sometimes tension whenever parents may ask grandparents to change their behavior, maybe if the child is spending time with them. So I thought that was a good one to call out as well. All right. Thank you guys so much for engaging with the first discussion question. I think, Casey, if we want to move on to the second one, we can.
Okay. How can schools, healthcare providers, and caregivers work together to increase a child's acceptance of new and nutritious foods? I think this is a great systems question here. How do you think?
And you guys can answer from your own role as well. So maybe like how in your current role, you can work together with other individuals that you may interact with to help out with this.
I would say for me, especially working with preschool kids, and I mean, it happens all the way up from elementary on up even to high school, but I do have some uh, kiddos that, even even the ones that don't have sensory issues, they just budget at home, um, generational poverty, all those things that come into play, um, you know, not just mental health, um, things like maybe the kids have been in foster care or they're living with grandparents, just all kinds of different scenarios. They're not they're not eating a variety of foods, which I mean, I grew up in a time where, we had gardens, but I also went through a time my mom was a single parent and food even then compared to now, I mean, the food costs keep going up, but she did not get any help. So we were limited on, what our diet consisted of. And I see this with the kids now, and it's like being able to work with, we have community health workers in our school. We've got, the counselors, teachers, special ed teachers, all of them. It helps to work together to get the needs met of these children. And so, um, bringing everybody together instead of just keeping it as a single system, that's for me, that's what works best.
Thanks, Casey. Yeah, we got some answers in the chat as well. Crystal had shared that at their school, I believe they have a garden club and then some harvest days. So that's kind of one way that they can work on, new and nutritious foods for the children. I liked Angie called out too, maybe making it fun. So maybe things like ants on a log, kind of celery with peanut butter, and raisins. She said that worked for her as a kid. So maybe, making sure that we can make trying new foods fun for kids as well. Let's see. Allison had an idea too. I'm curious, Bethany, kind of your input. She said, maybe too close to reward, but maybe the idea of making something a game. So maybe marking off on a bingo card after trying a new food, just as a way to, get kids engaged and excited about trying something new.
I think again, you have to know the kid. We don't want it to be a like, oh, I eat this and so I get that, because then it ends up being a like that too much of that reward mentality. But I absolutely think it should be fun. And so if that means that you make it into a game, like you try the bingo, I think is great. I've done lots of things brainstorming with parents on how can we help your child get over that hump of I don't want to, and make it, because that's sometimes too, and even the picky scenario where it's like it's not sensory, I just don't want to, no one's gonna make me and I don't want to. So how do you help them? And if you make it into a game, I think that is a really great way, especially for an 8-year old who started to have some strong opinions potentially, and it has developed some bad patterns that we can start to work on. And so I think a game is really appropriate, as a good option to help them move through this.
Thanks, Bethany. Now we had in the chat as well, Casey, kind of curiosity around what Coffeyville did to educate parents and caregivers about the changes that were being made to school food. So maybe that, is an opportunity for some change within families as well, but would love to hear how you guys kind of tackled that communication piece.
So that was done. We've just done a lot of, I've done radio spots. We try to send out nutrition education, especially like during the summer months where our food is not scratch cooking, but we still try to get a quality food. We're trying a new shelf stable meal because we do have a lot of kids that they're home by themselves. This isn't a lot of cooking to do. It's still nutritious and it's tastes good. So uh, networking with community partners, Blue Cross Blue Shield has been a huge factor in our success with this. The newspaper, Montgomery County Chronicle, Andy Taylor has been a big help. I've been able to present in front of the board. I've been able to present in front at the state. So getting all that out, it's and then bringing it back home to Coffeyville. I mean, I live in Bartlesville, but that's where my work is, and that's what we do there in Coffeyville. So just continually getting out. It's still educating the teachers though, and still educating the community that works inside the schools that we still need their help. We need their help conveying this nutrition education. There's plenty of resources from, KSDE, and Haley, I've got all those resources that you can put out too, but there's so much education. It's not something new, but just continually getting it out there to the parents, the community events, exposure to that too. And that's what we do. So, and it's just continuing that.
Thanks, Casey. Yeah, I dropped the KSCE Child Nutrition and Wellness Farm to School resource page in there. And then we do have quite a few other resources that we'll share with you guys in our follow-up email and on the website afterwards. So thanks, Casey, for kind of talking through that part of it. I wanted to call out one more. Actually, it said in the chat, I love the idea of being involved kind of from seed to sow. So it can, be exciting for kids, kind of like providing a sense of accomplishment and maybe even encouraging them to try out new foods because they kind of grew it and had ownership over it. So I definitely think that's one way, that we can get families and, if they have a setup similar to what you all have at Coffeyville, Casey, it's an opportunity to work together for that as well. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for engaging in the chat. It was exciting to hear kind of what's worked for you all and how you might apply yourself in this situation. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I think we can go ahead and move on to our key takeaways for the day.
Okay, so mine for my presentation are to keep your nutrition simple. There's a lot of information out there. Focus on that healthy definition of protein in a plant. It can be a simple thing that you can take with you. Also, helping children become adventurous eaters starts with encouraging them how to eat, not just dictating what to eat. So it's creating that healthy environment to helps them become long-term adventurous eaters.
Okay, and mine are child nutrition services can be a leader in innovation. So look beyond the term lunch lady. Your school food service is their school nutrition professionals. They go through immense training, immense knowledge, and our departments are there to nourish these children, to have better behaviors in the class, to learn better, to have better health outcomes, and, teach those so that they have something to go on as adults. Food production and education can coexist. Again, food service, I look at trying to change that language from food service to child nutrition within schools because I think if you change the language, you're going to look at it just a little bit different, especially when it comes to supporting, the whole child. And nutrition it's the core. I mean, no matter where you look at it, it's the core in all of those aspects. If you want to, you want a kiddo to be able to learn, absorb what they're getting in class, have better behaviors, um, better mental health, all of those aspects, physical education, it all boils down to um, nutrition. So in your schools, include your child nutrition department, whether it be the director or manager or whoever, include them in the planning, include them in the things that are going on with your teachers and, other staff in, getting the kids ready for their education.
Looks like we might have a quick question. I do think we have 1 minute, Angie, if you had a question you wanted to ask the speakers today.
I'm sorry, I know that we're right at time, but you keep mentioning some different grant opportunities out there. Who's the main funding agency for this? I'd like to explore that a little bit more for some of our smaller communities.
KSDE, Child Nutrition and Wellness, they do sub grants, and I don't think they were awarded grants this year, but we've gotten grants for like local flour, local meat, early learning, farm to school. Also, look at your community network. So I had got a grant through Community Action Foundation at Coffeyville, Blue Cross Blue Shield Pathways. They always have very nice grants. I've gotten two very sizable grants from them. And they're not hard to write. It's not hard reporting. It's not like, going to the USDA and getting, doing the whole RFP and everything else. So those smaller grants. And if you need help with that or have more questions, feel free to email me and I'm happy to help wherever I can.
Okay, thank you so much. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciated both you and Bethany's input on all of this great information today. Thank you.
All right. So just I want to say thank you so much again, Bethany and Casey, for sharing your expertise, and also Casey talking a little bit about what child nutrition looks like in Coffeyville. And as part of the series, we would really like to get all of the participants' feedback, especially on today's session. So you can scan the QR code that's there on the screen, or I've also dropped the link in the chat. It's really just a brief survey that gives you an opportunity to share kind of what your thoughts were on today's session, as well as speakers. And we do look at this feedback and really take it into consideration as we plan upcoming sessions. I will send the link out in the follow-up email as well. So if you don't catch it here, you'll have another opportunity once that's sent out. Next slide, please. And then really quickly, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. I do just want to highlight our next session in the series. So it's going to take place on June 25th at 12 p.m. And we'll be discussing navigating pediatric medical complexity in school-based settings. So we'd love to have you all join us again as Ryan Smith and Deb Cook talk through the topic, really emphasizing the importance of wraparound supports for youth that do have medical complexities. So for today's session, like I said, you all will receive a follow-up email, including a link to that survey. It'll also have a copy of today's slides, as well as some additional resources. I know we got a few of them in the chat, but Bethany and Casey had a few others I'd like to share as well. And then you will get a link to the session recording and a certificate of attendance once those have been processed. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you again, Bethany and Casey, and thank you all for joining us today. We really look forward to seeing you next time on June 25th at 12 p.m. So thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.